Hello guys, it's Christian from Emotions in Wine. So after the guides about the wines of Croatia, I decided to make also Sardinia topic. Why? Because I also consider Sardinia something very special. It's also called a bit a mini continent. It's not really considered as an island. It's quite big, quite extending north-south with a lot of variations also in the climate. You think hot, but in reality, this southern tip is like Calabria or south of Spain, while the northern one is central Italy. So that means a lot. And then even the soils, talking about the wines, vary a lot. It can give different styles and wines in relatively smaller distances, even the same grape. Besides then the presence of blends and other things. So it's really something interesting to touch. And I wanted to make this video also seeing the success previously. So it's a really mini continent. It's very, very different even from Italy. It's a place you need to visit at least once in your life. I didn't either yet, unfortunately. I know quite a bit of things. I had some Sardinian friends, wine, food, and many different things. Even that is not easy now. Even in Italy, sourcing Sardinian products is far away. It's not that comfortable, even the logistic transportation. That is one of the reasons many didn't go, because you need the plane basically, and then to rent a car to see the beauties, the pristine waters, the wonderful beaches, but also the wild nature inside. The population remains small. The ancient history from the Nuraghi 3,000 years ago, so the Nuragic civilization, a bit frozen in time. Also because of the population remain is less than a million, I think more 500,000, spread it around. There is a lot of mountainous areas, so a lot of different products, even animals and farm products. And then of course the seafood, famous even the tuna farm nowadays in Carloforte, so near Sulcis in the southernmost tip. So a lot of special things. And not last, very important, was always said that the Spaniards brought most of the grapes to the island, while in recent we have Cannonau, which is Garnacha, Grenache. There is Carignano, Carignan. Then we have Vermentino plus others, and of course a bit of international classics like Cabernet Syrah, but those are very small percentages. So the key are those three I mentioned at the beginning. Vermentino, the biggest production, and then the two reds. And the two reds were considered to be there from Spanish days. But, surprise, partly wrong. There are other theories, but one was confirmed in recent years. A study of grape seeds found, so DNA study, proved that they were Cannonau seeds from 3,000 years ago. So really in the Nuragic days. So surprise, it changed all the picture and may mean also that other grapes probably were there first. There are other theories also about the Phoenicians who had a base in Sardinia relevant, may have brought any grape there. So that is also 2,000 plus years ago. So very interesting in all the aspects. But this discovery was something incredible because that means that Cannonau was the first, no Garnacha or Grenache. And some of these grapes found the best expressions really in this island. Carignano di Sulcis is the best example. Carignan, difficult, usually blended. Carignano di Sulcis, for all the characteristics of the terroir, the weather, and everything, is probably the best expression of the grape. Another key characteristic of Sardinia is the blue zone, so the long aging population. There is a relatively big percentage of over 100 years old people. So the slow pace, the different, more natural environment, for sure also the food and the wine, all contributing to this. It's said that the reds in particular have an influence on this, Cannonau especially. So everything making it a special place, very different. As hinted, most of the grapes are, let's say, local. There are small percentages of the classic international, Vermentino, of course, is the most planted, the white, the only DOCG of the island, Vermentino di Gallura, in the northeast of the region, and then Vermentino di Sardinia, DOC is planted a bit everywhere. Same can be said for Cannonau, so the main grape, the king, that is also present a bit everywhere, but of course with many differences, as I was hinted already, even in relatively small distances. This is due to, besides the climate, more the altitudes and the soils, so really the terroir concept. If you happen to go there, you will have the chance to find from specific sub-regions the wines. Of course, if you live in Italy or abroad, everything is more difficult. Even in Italy, the smaller wineries, very tough to source, to find. They may be very tiny farmers. So that is all contributed to make it more of a gems discovery. It's the beauty also of the wine world, but of course it's also the handicap because it's not easy to find around. So the northern part is the most interesting if we talk about refined wines, more elegant. It's a bit less warm, first of all. There is a bit more water, so rain, while in the extreme south is very dry. And also the soil. So north, so the center north is mostly granite soil, so very rocky, often weathered, so with a bit of sandy top. That is classic for the Cannonau in the middle of the island at high altitudes. Mamoiada is the place. There we have top expression even up to 500, 600, 700 meters. And up to northeast, where is Gallura, so Vermentino di Gallura, this is all granitic. Then you can have also some vineyards on the beaches or close by, but many are a bit inner at higher altitudes with this soil, giving a lot of minerality, but even more structure in general. Vermentino di Gallura has this special characteristic because of the low yields, the rocky soil is creating a sort of more intense, richer wine with more complexity indeed, but rounder, oilier. So in the top expression, it's great for aging also, but in most cases, it's more interesting to drink in the first few years. The normal Vermentino for most of the other parts tend to be fruity, easy, salty tendentially, is quite a classic besides the soils, also because of the sea nearby. But the northwest instead, so still close to Vergallura, but on the other side where there is more mistral wind, stronger, so more saltiness also, but also cooler a bit thanks to the wind. And the soil is mostly limestone and some volcanic also a bit, so very diverse. You see also the traces of volcanic soil. So that is the Vermentino di Sardinia, so still the normal appellation, but giving the more vibrant, refreshing, and more vertical wines that I prefer. So in the end, my go-to are the Vermentino di Sardinia from Northwest. There are nice ones even in the rest of the region, depending also on where they are made. Can be a bit inner at higher altitudes, and then is the winemaking style, of course, contributing. But overall, this is a key point. In Gallura, a bit richer, a bit different on its own, even with that Mediterranean scrub notes, besides the fruity and mineral. So top expressions, I drank even very old, was amazing. But in general, the Northwestern is more, especially for aperitif or with the seafood, the vibrancy, fresh, refreshing is more interesting. Same can be said for Cannonau, so the most elegant in the northern part, but that main region, Mamoiada, is giving a bit more power, while on the northwestern there are fewer expressions. The biggest production is in the center of the island there, those high altitudes, while in the northwest little, but that from northwest can be also very interesting. As we can see shortly from the tasting video before, was from the 600 meters on granite soil, red fruits, which is quite a classic. Minerality very pronounced. On the granite is quite normal. It's very elegant as start, showing everything delicately. Touch of ethereal. My assumption is that they don't use new oak or a small percentage because the spice is very little so far. Just a touch of spiciness. And then there is something reminding Mediterranean scrap, but all very delicate so far, not impactful, so very refined wine. Very pleasant palate. Good depth. Red fruit, touch of spicy. The mineral is well pronounced, and the acidity is quite good. So this is the point of the elevation. Natural acidity of the grape is lower, but in these cases, at that kind of altitude, nights are very cool, so they help a lot to retain acidity. And staying there, so good length, considering relatively young vines, is well done, very fine, and with a good complexity. So we are already seeing how terroirs change quite a bit, even in relatively small distances. So even for the same grape, and then of course some parts better for some grapes, others for others. The south has a common key point, so warm and dry. There is where there are bolder red wines, there is less white production, but also there you can have in higher altitudes, so where you can maintain some more acidity. The south tend to be more limestone in general, except Sulcis, we will see soon. And in that near Cagliari, so the main town of the island, there is a big production of other grapes also, not just Carignano and Cannonau, also Bovale, Monica, so other minor grapes, several used also in the blends. So sometimes back, Argiolas, probably one of the 2, 3 most famous wineries from the island, big, created Touriga, a super Sardinia, so like a competitor of Super Tuscan, but using only local varieties in the case. So Cannonau, Carignano, and Bovale, and another one, I forgot. And that created a trend. Somehow able also to keep freshness, minerality, longevity. So some incredible wines, not just Touriga, highly praised, even from other wineries who follow the path. Nowadays, they use also some Syrah and Cabernet, but there are several options only with the local varieties. So even to give more visibility to the other minor grapes. Sulcis, so the most special part of the island, to me at least, the one that I would like to see the OCG. In this case, there is also the dispute about Phoenicians or Spanish bringing the grape. Anyway, Sulcis probably showed, as we saw in that video, soon I will give you a small part of it, that is really the best terroir for that grape, because it's a complicated grape, much more than Grenache, Cannonau. High yielding, acidity, tannic, later ripening, so needing really warm to ripen properly. And even in South France or in Spain, mostly was always used in blends. Carignano de Sulcis is really the top expression as 100% or so, because by law can be 85%, but majority do it 100% of the Carignano grape. Because that place is really special. Here we have even more particularities. The soil, first of all. So there are the vineyards even to the beach, on the sand, alberello, bush, prephyloxera, so ungrafted. Nowadays, some newer vineyards also grafted, but that is the tradition. There are still many old vines there. So it's really more special than the Cannonau story, even if Cannonau is more important grape for the island, but Sulcis is really something out of the box. And then variations, because then there is a bit of mountainous part behind, a bit away from the seaside, in this small corner of the island, remember? And there is limestone clay, so giving a bit more structure to the Carignano in the case. In some cases they blend, in some they do from the single area, and then the famous mines, coal mines, in the old days, were really under Sulcis. So in the northwestern part of Sulcis, beneath there is coal, giving even smoky and other characters. So the wine we tasted in that video, Enrico Esu, was from old vines digging into the coal, really in that area on sandy top. So it's really something incredible. So they showed already more in the evening, of course, yesterday. In a way, Nero Miniera developed a bit more. Elegance and finesse, we can even say, are the main characteristic. I'm a bit surprised also because the Carignano originally doesn't have these kind of levels, but here really we can dare to call it finesse. Impressive, especially considering the QPR, guys. Here we are talking about wines of 22, 23 euros in Italy retail. This, of course, Nero Miniera you can find only in Italy, online you can find, as I did, because it's 10,000 bottles. But Sant'Adi is present also around the globe, so for these prices, the quality is very high. So this one without oak, of course, also the old vines and everything will need more years, it's younger, but still show more complexity, even a touch of spiciness, natural from the grape. Now it's reconfirming first the fruit, then also a touch of Mediterranean herbs also here. This will show good complexity over the years. Now is medium complexity, but is a great expression of the grape itself. And on palate, it shows a bit more gentle. Of course, as I said, it's still not well balanced. The tannin is still evident, but with the time, it's getting a bit better. Staying there, good vibrancy, good length. So it's a great wine, honestly, for this value. Is a great surprise. Let's go for Rocarubia, Sant'Adi. It showed a bit less development in a way because it showed already at the beginning, but more on the earthy, more Mediterranean herbs, marking much more than the other. This is more balanced, as I said. Yeah, now this Mediterranean scrub, I think is the definition, is really pleasant, giving this touch of complexity. Now, little fruit here. There is much more all the other things, while the other still starts with the fruit and then the rest. So they are both layered. And this one in particular has all the layers coming together. That is something very pleasant for this level of pricing. Very nice. Yeah, length, pleasant, the fruit is sweet, then a bit spicy and the herbal. Staying there. Fantastic wines, honestly, value for money, fantastic. So this is good complexity, great refinement, highly rated, for sure, a bit more than the other because it's also readier. The other will age better. So to conclude, incredible characteristics, very special. Most are very tiny productions, so if you go there, you have really the chance to try something that majority of people in the planet will never, to connect with the place, with the people also, with everything. Besides also the foods, as hinted already before. In there on the mountainous areas, they have a lot of animals that match also very well. The lamb is a classic, for example, to match these reds. Of course, you have strong wines, as we said, the blender reds. You have rounder Vermentinos, but in general, you can find many refined wines even there. As said, all the links below if you want to see the previous videos made in full, to know more about the single wineries. Here I didn't go into those information. It's really a general guide. I hope you appreciated it. I hope you like also this kind of videos. So help us to grow, like, subscribe if you didn't yet, share with your wine friends. See you next time, guys, and salute.